Let's look at our Fuso starting grid, and from the pole position, 3 of them this weekend, it'll be Will Davison alongside the championship leader, Jamie Whincup. 3 wins at this venue previously. Shane van Gisbergen from position number 3 for SP Tools and Stone Brothers with his teammate Tim Slade. 3rd time this year he's been 4th. Thrilled to be in 5th as Lee Holdsworth. His previous best this year was back in Western Australia when he was 4th. Garth Tander turned around his average practice performance to pick up that car nicely and get it into the top 10 as well. Winterbottom, Webb, Craig Lowndes. Looking further afield, Courtney, Dave Reynolds. Fabian Coulthard, not happy with the balance of his car. Michael Patrizzi, he was pinged for running wide turns 20 and 21. James Moffat, we made mention of before. Alex Premer back in the field this weekend driving for Fujitsu and Gary Rogers Motorsport and using a spare car to get the job done. Rick Kelly, Tony D'Alberto. Tony's been showing some practice speed here this weekend. Didn't quite get it together in qualifying. Steve Owen, Russell Ingall, 500 race starts for him in the next race, number 25. Jason Brighton, his partner Lucy, welcome baby boy Lennox. And that special occasion occurring just after the Gold Coast. Looking further down the order, Johnson, Ryan, LaFiore, Wall, Taz Douglas, Tim Blanchard in for Todd Kelly. I'm sure Todd's watching us back in Melbourne at the moment after shaking down the new Nissan Altima, even with his bad arm at the moment. And we're looking forward to that program coming online in 2013, and Greg Murphy is at the rear of the field. So now on board with Russell Ingall. David Reynolds, runner-up at Bathurst in that thriller, 0.3 of a second, position 2, an amazing podium for him, chasing down this man who now has 4 Bathurst 1000 victories to his credit, and he's starting to put a grasp on another championship in 2012, but it's not done yet. We made the point at the top of the show, Scafey, 3 race events, including this weekend, 900 points, so anything's possible.
Certainly is, and he looks like he's got that momentum. Conversely, Craig Lowndes has struggled. He didn't enjoy qualifying. He's struggling with the curbs, and that car is nowhere near good enough. So, Davison, fantastic performance in qualifying for all 3 races. Dave Richards from ProDrive just looking on there as his car on pole position. And everybody now on the Formula 1 starting grid. This will be a fantastic start. The grip level will be high. And there's Gregory Murphy just coming up to fill the final position on the grid.
Green flag, green flag.
Watch for the lights. 28 V8 supercars set to roar. Lights out and away.
Whincup, great start, Whincup.
Will Davison chasing him across the road. Jamie pushes back. It's critical to get track position at the apex at 1, and Davison manages to prevail on the outside line. Nice work. Right now they're all discovering that cold hard tyres feel a lot different to warm soft tyres.
And Jamie had a really big slide, Neil, and that's what cost him. He was up the inside and he couldn't get it done. As Tander now dives down the inside. That's up the inside of Mark Winterbottom at turn 5. This is the new section of the track. There's 750 metres and there'll be plenty of action here over the weekend.
Great shot of that hairpin. So now they start the run down to turn 8. Very, very fast, approaching 280 kilometres an hour. Because of the sprint nature of the races, they're not carrying big fuel load for this race. So this is a flat-out sprint. Look at Frosty down the inside. And here comes Jamie. He puts a move on his mate, and he's got it. So Whincup to the lead.
That was a great pass. Very late move, but a great pass. I thought Will would cover. I didn't think that was on for Jamie then. So that was a very, very good dive. And look at this, Van Gisbergen now is in the action as they go down to turn 11.
Impressive performance under brakes by Whincup. Didn't see any sign of brake locking. Slade is totally harassing Van Gisbergen at the moment. The 3 Stone Brothers cars line astern. And by the way, this weekend, Ross Stone, owner of the team, first time we've not seen him at an event since 1996. I'm sure you're watching back on the Gold Coast, Ross. Hope you're enjoying the action, and your guys looking mega competitive. It's great to see.
He wouldn't have liked the first corner because Tim Slade and Van Gisbergen puts a move on. That was a great dive at turn 17 down the inside of Davison. He looks very pacey. Hard compound tyre. He was very good in practice.
And conversely, I don't think Will is nearly as happy on the hard tyre at the moment as those around him. So he's having a battle. Here comes Slade. Ooh. He pokes the nose up on the inside as well. Didn't quite get it done.
Sometimes this can be starting pressures, so his car may get better. But for sure, Davison is the one that's struggling. Van Gisbergen is the one who looks very motivated about putting some pressure on Whincup.
The order: Whincup, Van Gisbergen, Davison, Fabian Coulthard down the inside of James Courtney, who was a winner on the Sunday here last year. Up the inside, Frosty with Jonathan Webb.
Moffat ended up getting both of them. Moffat got by both after that move between Coulthard and Courtney. So James Moffat up to 10th from 14th.
Whincup, Van Gisbergen, Davison, Slade, Holdsworth, Lowndes, Tander, Webb, Winterbottom and Moffat. That's your 10 in this new portion of the racetrack, working to the hairpin and now essentially heading in a southerly direction, and a rotation and around for Alex Premer in car number 33. James Courtney off the road down there as well. So that was at turn 7, and look at Davison with that thing wriggling under brakes on the rear brake into the braking area down at 8. Massive brake temperatures, big brake pressure down there.
And that was a move from Tander. Tander passed Lowndes then. They come out of the hairpin alongside each other. And this is the replay of the start. Look at the jump that Whincup gets. It was a great start. Davison moves over. They have a little Dodgem car action. Then Van Gisbergen moves across on Slade. Now have a look at the slide. Big slide right there. And that's what cost Jamie Whincup. So Davison, a very healthy move around the outside at turn 1.
And having to run the tight line in there for Whincup means he pinched himself, and that's the reason why the rear of the car broke away. And how's this move on the inside down at turn 8? Nicely done. No evidence at all of brake locking in any of the 4 corners of the car. That was a well-calculated, well-executed move.
Now, that started with D'Alberto.
D'Alberto rotating Alex Premer. He grabbed one of the Jack Daniels racing cars in the process, and Courtney forced wide and off the road down there as well. Looks like relatively small amounts of damage in all cases. Frustrating return for the Frenchman, Alex Premer. So it's 0.7 of a second between Jamie Whincup and Shane Van Gisbergen, although Will Davison now makes a big argument out of it on the run down towards turn 1. Look at this. Gizzy down the inside, and he's up there again, but he's very tight at turn 1. This is what happened to Whincup at the opening part of the race. So Davison stays wide, hangs on. What a great exchange.
Well, he's done it twice now. You wouldn't think you get away with it once. He's done it twice. These are so grip limited over the hill here at turn 3. The cars accelerate very hard down this new section into turn 5. And these are these big new curbs. So it goes 5, 6, and then into the hairpin. We've seen action there already. This is the hairpin leading onto this fantastic big long run of just over a kilometre.
So as the brake temperatures and pressures have begun to normalise now for Will Davison, his car's settling down. So he's broken the draft slightly to Shane Van Gisbergen, and he sets off after Jamie Whincup, who's done the best sector split we've seen to the first sector so far on this lap, and he's done the fastest lap of the race, a 2-minute 15.7.
And Tander looking stronger on the hard tyre also. He was upset with their qualifying and their overall grip level, and big slide off the back of the curb there at turn 9.
Slade was right in the rear bumper of his teammate Van Gisbergen, but it actually hurt him coming out of turn 9. It was sliding too much, so past the support paddock now, down towards turn 11. This is one of the locations where they've raised the profile of the curbs on 7 locations around the track, and if you don't quite get the trajectory of the car right on turning there, you clobber those curbs and it really impacts the behaviour of the car, and we've seen it so far this weekend on some of the super slow-mo shots. So 1.6 seconds is the gap. Jamie Whincup to Will Davison. Fastest lap of the race, as I said before, for Jamie Whincup as they now make the run into turn 18, just beneath the hotel.
These corners, there's 3 of them there that are quite complex. They're all about 90 kilometres an hour. And then into this quite fast finish to the lap where the cars do about 180 Ks in that run down to turn 20. And this double right-hander, we've seen so many cars off the road here before. This is Rick Kelly, Steve Owen, Dave Reynolds. Dave Reynolds gives Steve Owen a bump, but he got a bump from behind. I think that was Steve Johnson. Let's just check. He got a hit there also. So I think Steve may have, in the concertina, given Dave Reynolds a little bump before he turned Steve Owen around. So there'll be further action and further investigation into that after this event. But right now, we've got Whincup with a good lead of almost 1.9 seconds over Davison, Van Gisbergen. There's the Brains Trust. There's Dave Stewart right in the foreground, who's looking after all things to do with Stone Brothers this weekend without Ross and Jim there.
And Peter Wallace and Ben Croak there as well, just on the desk inside Stone Brothers Racing. And they're three guys at the moment looking strong in third, fourth and fifth. Shane Van Gisbergen, Tim Slade, Lee Holdsworth. So we'll be able to get a clear indication of the margin here. It's 1.7 seconds Whincup to Davison. And see the gap.
And remember, they qualified in the 11th, so an 11.6 was 11.7, sorry, was pole position. A 15.4 on the last lap for Whincup. That's the difference in the hard tyre in race mode. So massive difference in lap speed, and obviously a big difference in the way the cars react, the characteristics of the cars based on that grip level.
Guys, James Courtney not happy about being turned around. His race is over. They're going to have to work on that car overnight. It does have some heavy damage underneath, and try and get it back for tomorrow.
Well, he was a long way off the road, Barrett's, because all that action was going on with guys being spun, and James Courtney was right out over the back, as you see now the HRT Commodore being pulled back into the garage. So it's obviously got significant damage under there.
On the go, Jacks, and Will Davison's responding now in the second sector with the fastest second sector time that we've seen in the race so far. Still the fastest lap Whincup. He's further moved that marker to a 15.4.
The Lowndes now putting pressure on Tander.
New deal for Techno Autosports this weekend, and you can see quite clearly the signage Heavy Haulage Australia backing both cars this weekend. So new orange livery on these cars of Michael Patrizzi and Jonathan Webb. And Jono, who we're looking at the moment, is 8th, and we're looking from the front bumper of Mark Winterbottom in position 9. You can read the part number on the diff housing there if you get close enough. So this is the run down to turn 1, and we'll stay with this and give you an indication of this 5.5 kilometre Grand Prix circuit in Abu Dhabi.
The new section. Slowest corner, 60k, and this massive long straight. Got the slipstream.
He's got a run on him. Bit of damage on the front of Jonathan's car as well. You can see the bonnet folded up there, so looks as though
nice pass.
Winterbottom's got the job done. So that started for him with a nice clean exit off the previous corner, got power to the road nicely. Just a little bit of damage on the front left-hand corner of Jonathan Webb's car. We saw great form from Jono on the Gold Coast on the Saturday. Career best and season best performance for him. It's been a very impressive run this season with these 888 Race Engineering built cars. They're continuing to build this young team on the Gold Coast. So Frosty now moving up into 8th position as a result of that. The problem is he's 6.5 seconds away from the lead. Fastest lap of the race, by the way, now Will Davison responding. He's pulled the margin down to 1.2 seconds. And Shane Van Gisbergen has actually done the best split to the second sector in this race, a 122.8. So keep an eye out for Shane as well, as he's trying to tighten up that margin on Will. So now we're well and truly into the zone where we'll see how the car balance and tyre wear trends are going to influence the result. 1.2 seconds is the margin between Whincup and Will Davison, and Craig Lowndes is massively harassing the back of Garth Tander at the moment. This is the battle for 6th and 7th. Take a quick break and be back with more from Abu Dhabi in just a moment. You can see the margins from the top runners as we welcome you back to Yas Marina, Abu Dhabi, the V8 Supercars at the 2012 Formula One Etihad Airways Abu Dhabi Grand Prix V8 Supercars in the support role this weekend, and 1.2 seconds is the margin. Jamie Whincup to Will Davison. Will's just done the fastest lap of the race. Therefore, a new lap record for V8 Supercars here, a 2-minute 14.8. So it's 1.1 seconds the gap Whincup to Davison. And this little battle continues. We talked about it just before the break. And Lowndes with that customary late in the braking zone lunge. And look at how much curb Lowndes was using then. In fact, he wasn't. He had the whole thing straddled. He turns the car in very early. Two very different driving styles between those two men. And you can see that that gap has narrowed now between Whincup and Davison.
The three Stone Brothers cars look very good there with third, fourth and fifth. Van Gisbergen, Slade and Holdsworth. How's the amount of curb he's using? Oh, he's almost down there at turn 14. This is a very fast section now. You come around this double right-hander up to 210 kilometres an hour, and then you have to get the car stopped. Look at the car slide, and then you can see the amount of cars that have gone off there to the left. There's Casey Stoner on board to do a 2-day sojourn in Abu Dhabi before he goes to the next MotoGP race.
Congratulations on that outstanding performance at the Australian Motorcycle Grand Prix. 6 in a row at Phillip Island. It's an amazing athletic performance, particularly given the recovery process that he's in the middle of at the moment with his injury. So well done, Casey, and he'll be no doubt down there in the bunker at Team Vodafone. He's expressed his desire to play the V8 Supercar game at some stage, so we'll look forward to that one.
Go, have a drink, nice and smooth, adjust your bars if you need to.
And Mark Dutton on the radio there. The bars that he makes reference to are the anti-roll bars in the front and rear. There's Steve Hallam on the right, James Courtney on the left in the Holden Racing Team garage. So frustration for Courtney. I didn't have a full understanding of how much damage or where and why, but obviously when he got punted down there in the hairpin, there was enough damage and he was far enough off the road that they've had to park that car. So that was down at turn 7.
This is a great shot of this new braking area into turn 5. The cars come down the hill at 230 kilometres an hour, and they've got to get them slowed up for a 90k left-hander, and then this is this hairpin where the cars are way back at under 60 kilometres an hour. And this is on board now with James Moffat looking back at Fabian Coulthard. They've been having a pretty intense battle since the start. We saw Coulthard and Courtney having a bumping duel, and Moffat got by coming out of turn 2 up the hill. And this is now down into turn 8.
Problem here for Rick Kelly.
Yeah, a lot of smoke coming out of the back of Rick's Commodore.
Pretty terminal for him, so that's a drama, and different livery on the cars this weekend.
This is all you like, I'm coming into pits.
So Rick's had enough.
Copy.
It's either popped a line off or lost an engine, but the cars this weekend are carrying new signage, craftsmanship and commitment. We'll have a chance during the weekend to run through the details attached to that. Fastest lap of the race continues to trade between Jamie Whincup and Will Davison at the moment. The seesaw gap has actually opened slightly between Whincup and Davison. It's now 1.9 seconds as they stand by at Jack Daniels Racing for Rick.
Now, and then we'll push in, but pull up on a 45 ready to go in.
So disappointing weekend for the Kellys.
Jack it up and have a look underneath. It's likely a curb ripping an oil line off. Jack the car up. In the garage, push it in the garage.
So an animated Rick Kelly says, I suggested a moment ago, easy to pluck a line off on this racetrack. That'll mean there's some oil around here as well. You can see how much it's depositing. So those guys that are just coming up on that at the moment are going to have to tread gently. You don't need much of it to disconnect the grip under your car and find yourself in trouble. Of course, very low probability of safety car intervention here because of the extreme runoff areas. It's only a 25% intervention in previous visits. You can make a mistake here and not pay the penalty. By comparison, you made the point earlier, Scapey, about the difference between the Gold Coast as a place to race and coming here. They are literally planets apart.
Aren't they? Just there couldn't be two circuits with greater contrast. And just up in front of this battle, Mark Winterbottom's moved away, so he's actually moved up onto the back of Craig Lowndes. When we were on board with him when he passed Jonathan Webb. This is now Webb fending off James Moffat and Fabian Coulthard. So Jonathan Webb looks like he's in a little bit of trouble in terms of rear tyre, and Moffat makes a nice gear change. That was actually a gear change fault out of third gear there for Webb, and Moffat gets up the inside. So that will move James Moffat up into 9th position. Now they've just got to make sure that they brake the cars nice and straight. So Webb's very, very deep under brakes. When you're on the inside like that, you just have to gauge the outside driver's speed and don't outbrake yourself. Very easy to make a mistake and run wide by yourself there. James Moffat, good job.
Guys, the HRT mechanics are all over James Courtney's car. It has a bit lower control arm, and at the moment they reckon they can get that done and have him back out for the next race today.
Thanks for the update, Mark Loretta, the Holden Racing Team garage. So bent steering is what sidelined James Courtney. So here's the margins, 2.3 seconds now, Whincup to Davison. So I'd say that Jamie responded to the call from Mark Dutton, has made some anti-roll bar adjustments front and rear of the car, and it's trending nicely on its tyre wear. Will's got a nice little margin back to Shane Van Gisbergen at the moment, and things have just eased down ever so slightly. But this battle that we're watching as they transit the area under the hotel between Tander and Lowndes, that's still red hot, and there's nothing worse than having a committed and angry Craig Lowndes all over you like a cheap suit.
So, boys, I'm in here with the Rick Kelly car. You heard Rick frustrated before, saying he may have hit a curb, meaning he might have ripped a cool off. You can see the mechanics, they're working under the front of the car here, and they've got what looks to be about an inch spanner under there. So that tells me oil line fittings. They're checking tightness. So it's certainly more probably engine related than anything else, I'd say.
All right, well, we'll keep an eye on that one, but we'll see him no doubt back out in action for race 25. Rick Kelly, a very busy week for those guys with the launch of the Nissan Altima. Another thing that's happening here at the moment, apart from this wild battle between Lowndes and Tander, is we're seeing some pretty special history being written for the VE Holden Commodore, which, if Whincup continues this winning streak, take the VE, which was launched back in, what, 2006 or 7, goes on to be one of the most, if not the most successful V8 supercars with 100 wins. And the car that Jamie's driving this weekend, Kate, as they called it, and this is the opportunity for Lowndes. Yes, down the inside now, but Tander's going to hang on wide. We'll come back to the stats in a moment. Watch this. Winterbottom's got a great brief on this as well. Side by side, both of them giving each other respect and space, but Winterbottom's the one to watch. He's got a great exit. He's up on the outside. Makes the run down past the support paddock, and this is going to be game on into turn 11.
Well, they cost each other, and Winterbottom was the beneficiary, but as it turns out, Tander's able to hold on. Lowndes moves to the inside and covers, but Winterbottom definitely got speed, and Craig will be frustrated now because he's been held up in behind Garth there for 4 or 5 laps now, and in certain areas Craig looks like the car's good, but in other areas Garth's exit traction is fantastic. So as Neil was saying, Jamie Whincup, the VE Commodore, has won 97 events in Australian Touring Car Championship and V8 Supercar Championship history. Today will be 98. If they win all 3 for the weekend, it's 100. That's so right. The most successful touring car of all time.
It's an amazing number. And to that point that I was making before about Jamie's car, he's sitting on 24 wins in that chassis. One more makes it the most successful in the history of the Australian Touring Car Championship and V8 Supercars, not only surpassing the record that was previously held by Stone Brothers with Marcus Ambrose, but it becomes the most successful chassis in the history of the sport since 1960. So a couple of milestones to watch out for. That was a moment then for Garth Tander. He pinched the rear brakes just on turn-in, locked them up and had to slide in. So they've just eased the margin slightly. And on that subject, let's check them. There's Whincup to Davison, back to Shane Van Gisbergen, a margin then back to Tim Slade, and then this battle here. So these guys battling for 6th, 7th and 8th. And it's just eased up a moment while they all gather their breath and then prepare to box on.
We'll be able to get in a second, because you watch Lowndes, he just made a mistake coming out of 6, but he's been very fast in the middle of this hairpin, but on the exit, Garth's had a great run, and this time, Mark Winterbottom gets a great run.
It's a cagey bit of work by Tander down there before, I thought, defending through 11, 12, 13. Just the way he positioned the car, he was willing to concede down the inside at 11 because he knew he had track position at 12 and 13. It was very good to watch, and there was no paint exchange. It was
Lowndes
pressure
off.
motor racing. Big mistake there for Lowndes at the wrong moment. And that is just a perfect get out of jail free card for Mark Winterbottom, and moves him up 1 spot.
He'll be angry with himself over that, Neil. That's a non-smiling Craig Lowndes in that helmet right now, because it's a mistake.
Behind, mate. 4 seconds to the car behind.
He just he knew at that point he braked very deep. He could see that Winterbottom was in contention. You could see how deep he was. He could see the rate of retardation there. He was never going to make that. So Lowndes, with a critical mistake, at turn 8, and an easy move in the end for Mark Winterbottom. Look at the forces. These are these new curbs at 11 and 12, or 12 and 13, those two are. Big slide. Great slow-mo, isn't it?
So there's so many things to look at. You can see the distortion of the left rear loaded tyre and the massive impact that transits through the tyre carcass, through the rim, the suspension, through the chassis of the car. Massive load. Remember, it's 1,450 odd kilos of race car and driver getting thrown up into the air like that. So 3.5 seconds is the margin. Jamie Whincup to Will Davison. It's a further 3.4 seconds back to Shane Van Gisbergen. There's Slade. He's having a lonely run now after the 3 SBR cars being line astern, then Holdsworth. Tander's got the pressure off now, although he's going to have to watch Winterbottom, who's closing slowly. Lowndes, as Mark described, would be cranky. James Moffat, this is a great run in 9th. Then it's Jonathan Webb, who's hanging on. Looks like he's got a balance issue on the hard tyre. Coulthard, Patrizzi, Reynolds, D'Alberto. I think Reynolds might be under suspicion for that issue early in the race as well. Further down the order, D'Alberto, Johnson, Caruso, Fiore, Ingle, Bright on camera there. Reindler, it's a different car for him this weekend. Kremer tangled up at turn 7 early in the race. David Wall, who, by the way, his dad, Des, is a little unwell at the moment, and I'm not sure he's watching back in Australia, and hope things are going well for you, Des, and we're all thinking about you. Steve Owen still soldiering on out there at the moment. Then Tim Blanchard substituting for Todd Kelly. Greg Murphy, Taz Douglas.
It's a great shot. Almost 280 kilometres an hour, braking heavily for the turn 8 chicane. And it's a very, very difficult stop. We saw Lowndes make the mistake on the previous lap, and it's a very difficult spot to get back to 65 kilometres an hour and then get the car positioned to come back out of turn 9 and then run all the way back down again at 265 kilometres an hour for the next stop down at turn 11. So as you can imagine, very hard on brakes with those 2 stops. And that's the V8 pit area that the guys have just driven by. You see them now into this little complex where Neil was referring to these new curbs. You can just see the orange painted curbs inside the traditional red and white Vallelunga curbs. And then that's turn 14 back towards the casino cum marina area. And then this really fast, big, open, and you sort of guide yourself into the first part of it, but then you've got to slow the car down whilst you're turning and stop the car at a very difficult braking modulation corner at turn 17. That's turn 18 now, down in under the hotel and into turn 19 to go back to the start-finish line of the Formula 1 pit area.
Rick Kelly back out on the circuit, going around. They had an oil line that had been basically knocked off in an altercation earlier on. They've reattached it. Rick Kelly back out there. Good news for Kelly Racing fans.
And he's 27th at the moment. Thanks, Brett.
So this start-finish straight for Formula 1 runs east-west, and then when the guys get down to turn 1, which is a really great open flowing corner, it's got about 110 kilometre an hour mid-corner speed, but they accelerate all the way up, as you see there. Webb wide gets through. Oh, a big slide through turn 2. It's sideways again on the transfer to turn 3. Fabian now trying very hard to come off turn 3 to put himself in position. This is the new area. This is the northern end of the racetrack. Trying very hard to position his car now. He might have a little dive down the inside of the hairpin. Just puts the nose there. Couldn't quite get it done. This will be important to get a good run. Mike Patrizzi also a bit too big. The slide there, just way too much wheel spin. And that cost him the run that he needed to get up the inside of Fabian Coulthard.
That's first gear there, so it's very easy to use too much throttle percentage. He lit it up. You can see the big black licorice straps left on the road behind the car. That'll hurt what we call the corner exit speed by 3 or 4 kilometres an hour, and it has an impact in the total speed at the end of the straight. Now, Webb, with all that oversteer that we saw through turn 2 and turn 3, is really having to hold on here at the moment, and he's bottling these guys up a little bit. So Coulthard knows that. He'll see the body language of the preceding car. He knows he's vulnerable. He has to pick his spot. Here's the gap from 2nd to 3rd. Tim Slade looks like he might be fractionally closer now to the back of Shane Van Gisbergen.
Oh, and Winterbottom's got him. Winterbottom by Garth Tander now.
So that's for 6th. And Winterbottom actually has done on that lap the fastest time to the second timing intermediate. So his car has actually trended quicker late in its tyre life, which means that the balance wasn't right at all to begin with. Whincup, 4 seconds is the margin now as he just continues on his winning ways. Checkered flag is out. Great performance for Jamie Whincup. Well done. And that is his 61st career victory in V8 Supercar and race win number 9 for 2012. There's Derek Warwick, who's the steward this weekend for Formula One and former owner of Triple Eight Race Engineering in the bunker. Look at this battle here as Coulthard closes down. Oh, didn't quite get there in the end, so he finishes 11th.
This is the pass
where Winterbottom gets the move done on Tander, who's trying to keep him tucked up on the left side. In the end, Garth realised he had to concede. You know that they're on the wrong side of the road when you see all the dust billowing from beneath the car, and Winterbottom gets it done down the inside cleanly. Nice move. So ultimately grabbing 6th place, which is what he needed. So let's check out those provisional final results for you, and it's 4.1 seconds the gap in the end between Whincup and Davison. Then Shane Van Gisbergen, Slade, Holdsworth, Winterbottom moving up a spot on the last lap, Tander, Lowndes, Moffat. Good performance, James Moffat. Jonathan Webb hanging on with a car that was clearly out of balance. Coulthard, Patrizzi. Nice job, Michael Patrizzi. Heavy haulage Australia with those guys this weekend. Davey Reynolds. Looking further down, some of those that didn't have the pace or had some traumas. Rick Kelly and James Courtney getting home in 27th and 28th. We're back with more from Yas Marina. We'll catch up with Jamie in just a moment.
So Whincup, very, very strong performance. Was able to dominate that mid to last part of that event and establish a 4.1 second lead over Will Davison. Shane Van Gisbergen was back into the clutches of Slade at the end. Holdsworth, good job over the weekend. His car looks like it's got reasonable balance, and Mark Winterbottom very fast at the end. In fact, his fastest lap was on the last lap, a 15.3. So to get by Garth Tander very late, good performance. Craig Lowndes didn't look fast enough, very frustrated by that mistake we saw him make. James Moffat, conversely, very good job to come from 14th to 9th. Jonathan Webb hung on with rear tyres deteriorating. Fabian Coulthard, Michael Patrizzi, David Reynolds, also quite a good job. He was in a really intense battle at the end with Tony D'Alberto. Steve Johnson was caught up in that kerfuffle down at turn 8, turn 9. Michael Caruso, Dean Fiore, Russell Ingall. Jason Bright's been unhappy with that car all weekend. Alex Premer in 20th. Got caught up at the hairpin at turn 7 when we saw James Courtney off the road. Ryan Lawal, Owen Blanchard, Murphy, who had a disastrous qualifying, Taz Douglas, and we saw the woes of Rick Kelly and James Courtney. So again, Whincup becomes the benchmark man. VE Commodore as a model. VE2 is the series update, now with 98 wins in Australian motorsport history.
So back into the winners area again for 2012. Jamie Whincup, Team Vodafone. Nice win, as I said before the break. Race win number 9 for Jamie Whincup. This will extend his championship lead further. Great exchange in the first lap or two with Will Davison. The two of them are friends, and they talked about this last night, just how they were going to do it, and they talked about trying to check out and get away from the others so that they could resolve their own race and their own differences, and they managed to do it. Well done.
And it was a very interesting turn 1, Croppo, wasn't it? Because a great start from Whincup. He was down in the right spot, and Will Davison knew that his mate wouldn't sort of fire him wide. They had a little bit of contact, and a big slide from Whincup allowed Davison to drive around the outside. And then his car was a bit strange because Will Davison's car was very ordinary early, and he responded. He went back to 3rd. Van Gisbergen actually got by, and then Whincup put his head down and established that sort of lead that we've seen him make, and we've seen him exercise that sort of advantage. When his car's good, he is very, very good. He's very hard to beat when he's in that confident sort of method that we watch him week in and week out display. He's the category benchmark, and certainly that race was one of those, with a 4.1 second lead over his good mate Will Davison.
Nice return to form also for Shane Van Gisbergen. So here's the point situation, and you can see, and I made mention of this before, that it's opened up. The gap came in at 218 points between Whincup and Winterbottom. It's out now to 250, as you can see. Lowndes still in third place, and Will was 577 adrift coming into this event. It's now 565 by virtue of that second place. But I was about to make the remark, Scafie, that it was a nice job, Shane Van Gisbergen, and a bit of a return to form, because we saw he was very strong earlier in the year. For example, strong down at Symmons Plains with a second, and we saw a bit of pace, some flashes of pace. They've gone through sort of a sine wave of ups and downs with his performance this year. So he'll be pleased, and the boys in that garage, SP Tools and Stone Brothers, will be pleased that that car's responded well. Clearly it likes this track.
It does, and I think also the hard tyre, Neil, we've got to really get our brain around this now, that those guys on the hard tyre there, I thought Shane's performance was very good. They've tuned the car very well over the weekend. They looked good as soon as they wheeled the cars out on the hard tyre. So I think that may actually probably suit them a little bit more than we're giving them credit for right now. The soft tyre now will be in our mind for the next couple of races.
So have a look at these super slow-mos over the curbs. There are 7 of these nasty curbs around here. We're just standing by, incidentally, for the drivers to make their way to the podium. And I know they're being ushered up there at the moment. So check it out. The car's flying up on 2 wheels. And just in particular, take a look at the loaded front and rear side tyres. And for example, the inside front then of Shane Van Gisbergen's car, and the thumping that it takes in through the front suspension and up through the bodywork is just fantastic. There's certainly some spectacular images all around this 5.5 kilometre Grand Prix race circuit. And in the end, it was a 4-second margin. I thought it might have been tighter than that at one point, because there was a stage there where it looked like Will was coming at him. And then when we heard that call from Mark Dutton about the balance of the car and have a fiddle with your bars if you need to, at about that point seemed to be where Whincup was able to open up the margin and look more comfortable. Great shot of inside the car. So the boys making their way towards the podium at the moment. It's a massive facility. Finding your way around in here and through the lifts, and Scafie and I only got stuck in one yesterday, by the way, which is a scary proposition. And in and around this complex, I said at the top of the show, $1.3 billion. Chris Jewell there on the right, the V8 Supercar course announcer, helping to escort the guys. It's a giant complex, and just finding your way around the labyrinth is a real challenge.
Guys having a little respite. It is such a hot place. It's such a, and although it's, in terms of the number of laps, it's still a very intense race over this sort of length of circuit and the sort of style of circuit that it is. Very easy to make a mistake. So the level of stress, and you can see that big smile on Jamie Whincup's face. That was a very, very good performance. Have a listen. A lot warmer than February, you just said.
Yesterday. I didn't find it too bad here. I saw the full server that night. Oh, okay. Okay, gentlemen, if you're ready. Yeah.
So that was a cool suit issue there for Will Davison. Shane Van Gisbergen giving his face a wipe and a little bit of rehydration.
So the boys will make their way out to the podium shortly, and they'll be greeted by Mark Beretta. It's so hot in there that Whincup decided to open the door on the cool down lap to try and ventilate the cabin, because they're all sealed up to maximise aero efficiency in these cars. So if there was a cool suit issue, and very often they freeze up, that can be pretty uncomfortable. Let's celebrate the podium for race number 24 here in Abu Dhabi. They're still standing by.
So here we come, ladies and gentlemen. Here are the first 3 with in third place, Shane Van Gisbergen, Stone Brothers.
So Shane Van Gisbergen comes out in his 3rd position. Will Davison and Jamie Whincup. The voice of Bob Constanduris in the background, the course announcing. Congratulations, Jamie Whincup, Will Davison, Shane Van Gisbergen, first, second and third. Adrian Burgess joining on the podium to celebrate. Great opportunity for the category to be showcased internationally. Dignitaries from all around the motorsport world gathered here this weekend.
And as you can see, that's the Formula One podium area in the Formula One pit lane.